Shri Akshat Khandelwal, founder and CEO at Nuflower Foods and Nutrition Private Limited.
First of all, I would just like to thank the Assocham team for inviting us here, but also for all the awards that were bestowed upon us. It is truly a privilege and an honor to be recognized for all the work we've been doing at Nuflower for the past 2 years, and in the space of MSME and the startup area. I will also try to be as brief as I can, simply because a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said. But before that, let me just give you a quick introduction about what I do and what my company does, and then maybe I can quickly get to the point that we are trying to talk about. My name is Akshat Khandelwal. I'm the founder and CEO of Nuflower Foods and Nutrition Private Limited. What we do is we are a manufacturer of lipid-based medical therapies that we make for children that are severely acute malnourished, but also people who haven't had access to food and nutrition for extended periods of time. Essentially, it is a form of humanitarian assistance, but conducted through very formal and organized supply chains. So our clients, they tend to be UNICEF Supply Division, World Food Program. We also deal with the World Health Organization, Red Cross, Save the Children International, and so on and so forth. Our products, they go to places like Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Somalia, and so on and so forth. Most of our revenue, over 95%, it comes from exports. So that's what we do as a company. Now, COVID, when it happened, also impacted us, but not so much on the demand side. We were privileged enough to be in a sector where the demand for our product actually stayed the same, and in many cases also went up. But from the supply side, of course, just like the rest of the economy and just like a whole lot of the export sector in our economy, we suffered because of shipping costs and all sorts of commodity inflation. Now, however, we have the Ukraine crisis, the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And in my opinion, I think that crisis is probably it's going to have 5 times the toll of COVID. Because essentially what the Western sanctions on Russia in response to its military intervention in Ukraine, they have done is they have taken out a country that supplies 20 to 30% of all the commodities in the world, and they've taken it out of the world economy, the world market. What does that mean for India? Because we import a lot of our energy requirements and we import a lot of metals as well. It means that there's going to be severe inflation, steep supply side driven inflation of commodities such as wheat, corn, edible oil, crude oil, natural gas, and the rest is and practically every other commodity, and I think it's pretty obvious. Now, what I wanted to talk about in this discussion is a few ways what MSMEs can do and startups can do to basically deal with the crisis level situations that we have today and come out swinging. So the first thing I feel is, again, I will be drawing a lot on the experience of my company as well. Now, the first thing I feel that we should do is ruthless diversification. I think all of us, we should look at the clients that we are serving, see what sort of other products and services we can serve to those clients and try to work on them. Then we should also look at the production capability, service capability, whatever competency that we have as a company, and see what sort of clients we can service with them, right? So we need to really think outside the box and monetize every aspect of our capability in our company. And in Nuflower, one of the things that we did was we had our main business is the manufacturing of medical therapies. And what we started doing in the past 1.5 years is started a private label division, which seems to be going well and is giving us decent cash flow now. The second thing is obviously something that has been spoken about by multiple speakers here, which is a quality-focused export orientation. If India has to be a great power, we need to be a manufacturing power. If we have to be a manufacturing power, we have to be an exporting power, right? And the only way to have sustainable access to foreign markets, to have a reputation for yourself, is for MSMEs to be quality-oriented, quality-focused. And I think more than anything, I mean, it definitely involves adoption of technology, definitely involves learning the best practices, but more than anything, it's about culture. We need to just change the way we look at quality, anything. I mean, we need to sort of whip ourselves a little bit on this regard. And one of the things that, for example, in Nuflower, what we did was we go through very stringent, because we export most of our produce, and we have European buyers, so we go through a stringent GMP audit on an annual basis. And what that has led to a culture in our company where we have zero tolerance for any sort of deviation, any sort of planned, unplanned deviation. The third, of course, again, this was talked about by the Honorable Minister who graced us with his presence earlier today, which is import substitution. That is extremely important. If anything, the Ukraine crisis teaches us is that the just-in-time globalization supply chain is deeply, it's not entirely safe for a country's national security. Other countries can sanction us, they can do all sorts of stuff. We cannot be so import reliant. So what I would urge all MSMEs here to look into their industries, look into their sectors, see what areas are being imported extensively in India, and try to import substitute and build an Atmanirbhar Bharat. I am a big fan of the government's agenda of building a self-reliant India. And of course, the last thing, the fourth thing is obviously, again, spoken a lot, and I'm just going to quickly skip over it, which is technology adoption, and what I'm really talking about, because I come from a manufacturing background, and what I'm really talking about here is there is no reason why MSMEs should not get into things like ERPs, systems, and all sorts of other data collection modules, even at a very early age. Usually the transition happens when you cross a certain revenue limit. I think it needs to happen much before, because the products are now very cheap. SAP is not the thing that you have to go for. There are so many small-scale ERP, very affordable ERP software out there, because everything is going to be monetized. Big data, AI are coming, whether you like it or not. They're going to change every industry. So you need your data monetized as soon as you can. And the last thing that I have in terms of suggestions for how we can ride out the kind of context that we are living in today is that we should always have faith in what I call, and what I've heard other entrepreneurs like Elon Musk call, the first principles approach, which is, as MSMEs and as startups, we will always be in a situation where we are pressed for time and money. We will never have the kind of resources that a big corporation has, where they can spend a lot of money on research, get fancy managers from a competitor. We will never have that. Well, we've got to work with the limited resources that we have, but we still have to chart the uncharted. We always have to explore the unexplored. And it will always mean that we are dealing with concepts, technologies, markets, and products that frankly we don't know much about. But what we should do is we should have faith in ourselves and just try to solve the problem. It should not be that because I have not worked in this market, or because I don't have people who've not worked in this market, I'm not going to go for that market, right? Or go for that product, or incorporate that technology in my processes. I think we should just simply have faith in ourselves, have courage in ourselves, be like the sailors who discover unexplored land, and then just solve the problem, right? And that's pretty much all I have to say in terms of what we all could do to manage and come out of, to basically sail through the kind of context that we are living in. I would just say, just to conclude my speech, a few more things, which is that I think one of the best things about us, all of us, is that we are living in a country which is an island of macroeconomic stability, in a world where I see so many countries facing balance of payments crises. I see countries where their currencies are crashing. I see countries which are radically indebted. Today, India has a $3 trillion GDP. On a purchasing power parity level, it's an $8.5 to $9 trillion GDP. And we have good forex reserves, I think over 550 billion. So we are in a pretty decent state. And even our inflation rate, when you benchmark it with what's happening all over the world, is not that bad. And I think more than anything, that is the advantage that we all have, to be in India and to be in an economy which is fundamentally stable when compared to what's happening everywhere else. And in terms of what policy movements that the government could take, I personally think that one of the things that we should do, a few things actually. One is obviously We should avoid signing FTAs with countries where there is a structural disadvantage to a manufacturing base, and we should sign FTAs with countries where we know that the exports will outpace the imports. And I think that's what the government is finally moving towards. The second point is, I think export incentives should be back on the table. For whatever reason, the export incentives that were given to export-oriented industries were cut back, reduced over the past 2-3 years. I think they should be increased, because India will, of course, need a lot more forex now to import all the energy that we need. And I think on a national level, because of the commodity inflation that is going to come in the next 6 months, I think we need a strategy in terms of how we can control the commodity prices, so that the MSMEs are very safe. Because with us, we can't have a compression of our EBITDA margins for more than 3 or 4 quarters at any point of time. And that's about it. That's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you so much once again to Assocham for the platform, and thank you so much to all the speakers on this day. Thank you.